Guys, welcome back to episode 4. So far, we've learned how to find properties, also learned how to calculate costs and our ARV. We also have walked a property for scope of work, and today we're sitting with Ian Morell of Caliber Real Estate to actually find out about how the heck to fund one of these deals. So, Ian, I couldn't think of anyone better to talk to about financing than you, my friend.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. I know that you personally have done quite a few investments yourself.
Yep.
Probably in the hundreds potentially.
Yeah.
And thousands with your company. Not to mention you work with hedge funds,
Yep.
mortgage background as well,
Yeah.
right? So definitely excited to hear some of the knowledge that you can partake, and I'm pretty excited what you can bring. Since this is a 101 video series, I think the first thing to ask is just what are some of the many ways you can actually fund a deal? Like, what are some ways to finance a deal?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would typically break it down to 3 different ways that our clients are typically using financing to acquire these properties. The traditional route has always been, the 30-year fix, the 5 to 7 year ARMs, going conventional financing. The problem with going conventional financing in most of these, with most of these properties that we're finding is, they want a 30-day, 40-day close. They want an appraisal. They want, everything that comes with the timeline for closing a conventional loan. And a lot of times when we're dealing with these properties and these sellers, they want to move fast. And so that's typically out. The second one is what we call hard money, bridge financing. There's many different words for it, but essentially you're looking at a private lender that will come in and secure a first lien position. So they will become the bank and the lender. It's a higher interest rate, but there's no income required, really no documentation loan. It's just you put down your down payment and the deal has some equity in it. It's more collateral driven, opposed to conventional is more driven by the borrower. And then the third is straight private lender, like a guy like yourself that might want to fund someone, or you have some capital and you're going to fund them cash to close. Okay. So typically those are the 3 that we see.
Fantastic. So you mentioned, and I know we focus a lot on flipping, you mentioned hard money loans.
Yeah.
I know for a novice, sometimes that's, kind of be a little they get a little nervous about it. It's kind of a little scary potentially for some folks. So tell me why you think people kind of feel that way initially, and maybe why they shouldn't feel that way.
Well, I'll tell you, hard money has gotten cheaper. When I first started lending hard money, we would charge 4 origination points. So on a $200,000 loan, your loan would be $208,000 in fees, and then an additional 12% annual interest, which is 1% interest only every single month. So your payments would be $2,080 every month. Now you can find lending anywhere as low as, there's 9% money, 8.5% money now if you're a really experienced investor, but most 9 to 10% on the funding side, still some 11 and 12% available. And you're looking at an average of about 2 origination points opposed to 4. Now it does scare a lot of people because you're signing up for this high interest loan that has a due date of 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever it is. The reality is it's all you budget it all into your numbers. Just like if you're going to flip a house and you're going to budget a roof, you're going to budget the points. You're going to budget the whole time. These lenders will give you extensions if you need more time. Obviously, there's an additional cost, but no one's foreclosing on you if you hit that 6-month mark. So that's kind of that's the number one thing, is what happens if I'm not done in time.
Right.
And I tell a lot of people it's cheaper than finding a partner. If you and I put our money in together and we bought a house together, 50-50 would probably be, it'd probably be better to leverage a hard money lender. You're going to be paying a lot less than 50% in most cases, and you get to keep all the profits. So essentially look at hard money lenders like a partner that gets you into the game.
As a investor, what do you got to do to qualify for hard money? I think you kind of hit it a little bit.
Exactly. Like I said before, it is collateral based. There's no credit score requirement with our fund. So you can have a 500 credit score or an 800 credit score and you can still get in. We might want a little bit larger down payment if the credit has challenges, but we're not asking for income. We will ask for assets. We want to know where's the down payment coming from.
Right.
If we require, $60,000, $70,000 down, we want to see a bank statement to see that you have that, and then maybe the funds required to fix it up.
Okay.
We're looking at it almost like an insurance policy. We're trying to help these investors and not get stuck in a situation where they run out of cash. So the asset verification is really just saying, hey, let's make sure you have enough money to do the job.
It's a pretty critical part, I would assume.
It is.
So if somebody, has a ton of cash, they have all the cash they need to acquire a property and the cash they need to actually, finish a renovation.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that they just kind of use all their cash, skip any loans whatsoever, or do you kind of recommend the leverage of a
That's
of a
a
loan?
great question. So some of our wealthiest clients leverage still. They have all the cash they need, but they still leverage because your cash on cash return is greater when you're leveraging. So to give you an example, if you're buying a house for $300,000 and let's say you need $70,000 in rehab, you're looking at $370,000 out of pocket, opposed to being able to finance that $370,000. If you're looking at 20% down, you're significantly lower number out of pocket. So whether you might make $40,000 if with all cash scenario, you might be making $26,000 or $28,000 with the financing, but your out of pocket is significantly less, which boosts your cash on cash return.
Yeah.
I will recommend many times if you have the cash and you're doing your first flip, fund it all cash so you give yourself a little bit of room there to make mistakes. But once you're cooking, if you can do 2 instead of 1 or 3 instead of 2, you're looking to overall better your return.
Helps you scale a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. What are some of the main factors you recommend for choosing a money lender? Maybe on the hard money side or whatnot.
That's a great question. There's a ton of choices out there. Local is always best in my opinion. And you'll have some of these lenders that'll come from out of state and promise some really great rates. But what's more expensive than a slightly higher interest rate is not closing on time. Right?
Absolutely.
Like delaying closing or not closing at all, even worse, is a lot more expensive than paying that extra point because someone's coming in offering you a slightly larger point.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you're working with local lenders, you're working with someone like you and I, a human being that looks at you, shakes your hand, builds a relationship, where you can call that person and lean on them if you need a favor, you need something done quick.
Right.
If you're talking to someone over the phone in California, you're just a name on a piece of paper to them, and you might not get that kind of leverage you need when in a tight position.
Yeah, that makes sense, man.
Yeah.
When we talk about Brrrr Strategy, right? Kind of a real popular thing going on
it's a
right
hot
now.
word.
It's a beautiful thing. If you're actually looking to go after a Brrrr property, what is a few things you might want to let your lender know in advance?
So tell us, Michael, what a Brrrr is.
So Brrrr stands for buy, renovate, rent, refi, and then repeat. So it's a way for you to actually invest in a property, do all the renovation, and then be able to pull the majority, if not sometimes more, of your first initial investment back out.
Exactly.
So you can go ahead and repeat the process. And the best part is you actually get to hold that property now. It could be cash flowing property that you're holding at virtually zero out of your own pocket. Did I get it right?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the reason why this Brrrr was created, or such a large hot button right now, is it is the best way to maximize your leverage. And maximizing leverage scares a lot of people, putting those two words next to each other. But any wealthy real estate investor that wasn't given a bunch of money at the beginning, they maximize leverage. They borrowed as much as they possibly could. If I have to put down $100,000 per rental and I only have $200,000, I buy 2 properties and I'm out.
Right.
But if I can pull that cash back on each one, yes, I'm going to take a small hit on that cash flow because I'm going to be leveraging more. But it allows me to buy, instead of buying 2, maybe you can buy 4 or 5. I've seen successful Brrrs where people get all of their money back, and that's not realistic on every deal. But I mean, if there's certain occasions where you buy them right and you're able to get most or all of your money back, to allow you to go buy another and buy another. And that's the powerful part about the Brrrr, is not leaving a ton of dough in a deal.
And probably finding a Brrrr property is a little more difficult than just maybe a standard flip, just because there's got to be a lot of room or a lot of room to force that appreciation.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about expectations, right? If you're going into thinking that a Brrrr means you get all your money back, you're going to have a hard time finding a good deal. You're going to be searching for a long time. But if you're okay leaving 20, 30, 40,000, you find that number that you feel secure and comfortable, then there's plenty of opportunities to Brrrr out there, right? I think the important part, if you're looking for a Brrrr, is to set the expectations right. Find a certain number that you feel comfortable with leaving in that deal, and make sure that you have the right tools or calculator to make sure that you're calculating and factoring all the fees that come with that, which is what you can work with people like this guy to do.
Right, absolutely. This is kind of a broad question, so sorry about that.
Yeah.
But Hopefully you could be able to answer it in some way. But if someone is kind of new in investing, maybe they have a day job, they do want to get into flipping or something like that, how much money do they have to have to start out, kind of on their down, and also for maybe after the renovation, any extra kind of hidden costs or things that they should get budgeted for?
Yeah. That's a great question. People typically don't ask. They come and say, I want to buy, and they don't really kind of pre-approve themselves first.
Right.
Make sure that you've spoken with the lender and that you're all squared away before you even start looking for properties. But having the cash is definitely a necessary tool. If you're lucky enough to find a partner where you can trade your work, your hard work, your resources for some cash, a funding partner, that's a great way to go in with no money down. And it does happen. Typically, you're going to want to save about 15 to 20% of what we call total cost. But we also need money for the things that come up that we didn't budget for. Maybe we get in there and we ripped out a wall and something else needs to be resolved there. Maybe there is an extra couple months of holding costs. We're paying these hard money lenders writing a check every month, so we need to make sure if we're budgeting for a 6-month hold that we've got those hard money payments, 6 months worth, sitting somewhere in the bank. That 60 to 80,000 is probably a bare minimum. You're going to want to make sure you have some buffer in there. And that might be two people that each have 50 or 60,000 that want to partner on their first deal to get in the game.
Right, it's a good way to get started. A few things you would say that investors should watch out for just kind of getting started, and just kind of some tips and maybe some mistakes you ran into, or something.
Yeah, that's a bad question right there. There's so many, right? And the important part, not to do a little shameless plug here on Michael, but the important part is work with a professional. There are a lot of real estate agents out there that have never analyzed an investment property. They've never purchased an investment property, maybe never even purchased a home before, and they're helping investors buy properties. And you have to buy right. That's the number one thing. If you buy right, you have tons of runway to make some mistakes along the way. But I think the number one thing I see people going is to some random real estate agent, writing up a property to flip or buy as a rental without the proper guidance of knowing how high should I pay? What do I think this is going to cost me? And we see it all the time. People get in and blindly buy a property without a plan or without maybe they're missing excise tax or holding costs or title and escrow. Many different things that we need to factor in because we're in this to make money. This isn't just for a good experience working on a house swinging a hammer. So I think that's the number one mistake. There's plenty more I could share, but that's definitely make sure that you're buying right.
I want to quickly switch gears to holding properties, right? So I know my personal goal is to eventually hold enough properties that I can kind of retire off cash flow, unless you've got some kind of golden parachute retirement program for me.
That's the goal. No, that's it.
No? Okay, darn it. Okay, so basically my question is, I know that once you kind of get to like 10 loans on a property, there's kind of a thing where you can't get any more loans, if I'm right. How do you kind of scale up from that point?
Yes, you also need an amazing lending partner. And I could say the same exact thing about the lenders that are not used to working with investor clients. It's a completely different guidelines and rules and little details like the first 4 properties conventionally financed. Your credit score limit is lower. It's like 660 or 680. The minute you go to finance your 5th property, they require a minimum of 720 credit score.
Oh, wow.
Right? But if your loan officer has not dealt with people that have 4+ properties and gotten to that 5th, they wouldn't know to ask that question. You might have already purchased it looking for your Brrrr exit and find that out later. So making sure you're working with a lending partner that understands the ins and outs. Now, property 5, another thing I missed is we can go to 75% on conventional 1 through 4. Property 5 through 10, not only do you need a 720 credit score, but we get limited now to 70% of the appraised value. And that extra 5%, that's a real thing. Now, after the 10 has been exceeded, there are portfolio lenders out there. There's a few that I will use that have no limit at all. Now, their rules are a little bit different. They might ask for a couple things that you're not used to being asked for. But they have no limit as long as you fit in their boxes.
Well, Ian, man, I appreciate your input. I was really doing this series to hopefully get those folks that I know are out there, and they've mentioned it to me, that they've been thinking about investing in real estate, and I'm hoping that, maybe these videos will kind of give them the nudge to actually take action on their goals. So leave us with one last tip for somebody who's kind of in that mode, right? They've been wanting to do it for years, but they just never pulled the trigger. What should they do, man? What's their first step?
just jump in. There's too many people that will, we call it analysis paralysis. They will sit there and they will crunch numbers till they're blue in the face. You got to just go for it. And, you can spend a lot of money on educational products out there, real estate education. You can read until you're blue in the face, but the best experience,
you could spend
just take the money you're going to pay for the seminar and go in and buy a deal. Just get your hands dirty.